What was your high school scandal? Either the kid who got kicked to death by a foreign exchange student or the math teacher banging a sophomore. In situation A, the principal got fired because he was somehow supposed to stop this assault that occurred after school. The kid that got killed was repeatedly calling the exchange student the N-word and was told that he'd get his head kicked in if he didn't stop. He didn't, and even he indeed got his head kicked in, had a fatal seizure as a result and died. I think the exchange student got sent back to his home country afterwards. In situation B, a parent found the math teacher and a sophomore girl having sex after school. Disgustingly, since the teacher was friends with the superintendent, they worked out a plan to get the guy from deservingly ending up in jail. They played up the whole "he's a good Christian man" lead momentarily astray by a temptress's angle in the papers, dragged the trail on until no one really cared about anything other than him being fired, and he literally got off with a slap on the wrist. Quite a few, and this is just when I was there. Someone said there was a gun on campus, so everyone went into lockdown mode and SWAT came. Turns out there was a fight in the apartments nearby, and one of the parties abandoned their car with said gun at the high school parking lot. A couple had sex outside, but naked, in some kind of hidden, but apparently not totally hidden area. My high school was built like a small college campus, so it was pretty open with separate buildings and easy walking distance. Another couple got caught having sex, also butt naked, in one of the buildings right outside the bathrooms with every intention of getting caught. They ended up getting expelled, because this is not the first or even second time they had done something of this magnitude. Someone committed suicide in the middle of the year. Turns out they were bullied a lot at school, and they had a horrible home life. I remember talking to them once, because I entered the wrong building on accident, and I had no classes there, and I asked them for help. They were so sweet and kind, and smiling the whole time, even joking a bit, and trying to be helpful. About a couple weeks after we talked, the school announced the time and place of their funeral. I still cry a bit every now and then. We didn't even exchange names, but I really wish I could have gotten to know them. Someone jumped from the roof and broke their arm. Someone else jumped from the roof and broke their spine. This kid I know created a program that hacked into the school's mainframe and destroyed each computer it entered. Lots of computers had to be replaced. I remember seeing this happen, and it was amazing to say the least. We would have fights every now and then, mostly between girls, and I remember seeing this one fight that happened and just spanned across half the campus, and there was a huge group of students running across following them in a pack, just hyping the fight up. In the end someone lost a weave and some teeth and hair. That's all I can think of for now. BC, it's late. We'll update if anything else comes to mind. There was a girl in the year above me. She was raped and murdered during school hours. She finished her exam and had one more before graduating and decided to take a walk in the forest as it was a hot day. The guy spotted her and bludgeoned her to death. When I was in high school, the school was in danger of being shut down and turned into charter schools. A lot of the teachers and students were protesting and going to officials. It was going well. During this time it was found out that a guy had raped a girl in one of the stairwells. It wasn't given press, and I'm pretty sure my school settled it with the parents to not give the school more bad press. A boy had a birthday, and his friend's dad was a pilot and offered to take him and his friends, 3 kids total, flying through the mountains. They left and never came back. It took search and rescue about 3 days to find them. Everyone hoped that they had just had to make an emergency landing, and we are still alive. The plane had crashed. All 3 kids and the dad were dead. Engine had suffered some sort of catastrophic failure, and he couldn't level the plane out in time. Our entire school was so tense waiting for news. It came during my lunch period. There were 2 lunch periods for different grades. The kids were pretty popular, and they had siblings at the school too. The teachers got the news and then shared it with students. I remember seeing kids bursting out of classrooms in tears. No class did anything for the rest of the day and most of the rest of the week. Back in high school we knew this girl. She wasn't vastly popular or anything, but she was always around. Anyways, she was diagnosed with blood cancer and the whole school found out about it. We had a whole Facebook page with friendly letters and pictures and so on. A few months pass, and we all get the message that she has successfully beaten cancer. The whole school was happy for her, with word of mouth spreading her triumphant victory of beating cancer quicker by the day. Then, literally 2 days passed when she died from a heart attack due to a side effect from the medication she was taking. The whole high school was just miserable. So unfair. That's great that the whole school supported her through it all. A good friend of mine beat Hep C, bad blood transfusion, after a long 1-year battle, then died of a heart attack. My mom got Hep C through a bad blood transfusion. They finally developed a treatment a few years ago, and she's now Hep C free after decades of it. I'm so grateful she's still around. We had a secretary that everybody loved. She knew almost everyone's name. She got cancer. She defeated it and fell pregnant. When the cancer came back, she had to decide whether she wanted to keep the child or abort and do the cancer treatment. She chose to keep the baby and died 3 months after giving birth. The school organized buses and excused students from lessons, so everyone was able to go to her funeral. There were so many people there, we didn't fit into the building and there weren't enough candles to light. She was such a nice and cheerful person and supported me through some really hard times. I still cry when I think about her being gone. Our middle school principal had only been working with our school for a year, but everyone absolutely loved him. And when I say that, I mean we all adored him. He had just arrived after a real hard-ass guy who not only was no nonsense, but was also just mean. But anyways, this guy was the nicest dude and cared about everyone. There were these few boys in my grade who were notorious troublemakers, and instead of yelling at them and being mean or anything like that, this principal treated them like human beings and tried to get to the root of the problem. He looked at them as the children they were and recognized that these boys each came from really hard home lives and that's why they were acting out. So instead of giving them the usual disciplines during their detentions or suspensions, the principal would assign them household chore-like stuff. He also would sit down with them and make sure they were getting their homework done, yet also having a father figure to play basketball with. In the mornings before the bell rang for class, he would be out there with the entire middle school, small school, granted, and be chatting away. He took the time to get to know every single student and make sure all of our needs were being met. Unfortunately, at the end of his first year at our school, he was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor and was forced to resign. He is always remembered for his cheesy but lovable saying work hard, have fun, be nice, and the impact transcends his time there. He sadly passed away in 2016. R.I.P. Mr. Driscoll, thank you for all you did. A guy murdered a girl like 1 week before prom, spurred on by his GF. Small school to have 80 people in my year so everyone knew everyone. That's some Macbeth shit right there. Years ago our high school had a French class. They planned a trip to France. The plane crashed in the ocean before they got there. There's a memorial garden and angel statue for the students, faculty, and chaperones. I'm currently babysitting a friend's cat whose daughter was on that plane. The crash still resonates today. Was your school Montos Valeria High School? That's the only one I can think of that fits the criteria. Did you know anyone that died? I'm just curious. Yes, I don't know anyone from it, but many people in the area do, and some of the families still live here. I know it was considered national news since it was a plane crash, but I didn't expect someone to get the school right immediately. I also moved years ago, but my family still knows a lot of people in town. Well, for the past 10 years or so there's been a really high incidence of students committing suicide by parking their car on the train tracks near the high school. It's not consistent, but every few years one person will do it followed by a couple more. I feel bad for train conductors, or whatever the drivers are called. It seems like suicide by train is pretty common, or murder in this one case here. It seemed like a suicide, but a lot of things didn't add up, and it seemed suspicious. It's awful. They thankfully have protocols that ensure the conductor is removed from duty. Hopefully they also ensure mental health care is provided. There is still so little support for PTSD and mental illnesses caused by work, like being a first responder or a train conductor hitting someone. Dad is a conductor. They give you 3 days paid time off for it, and people from the union call and check on you. It's rough, but the time off gives you a chance to hug your family a little tighter. In the 90s, We had a project prom, a school organized event with the idea that students would go there instead of parties, and it would keep them safe. A girl died at one. At hot tub filter caught onto her leg, and the suction held her underwater. At the time, this is over 20 years ago, there wasn't a law that the emergency shutoff had to be nearby. It was fairly big news. The New York Times did a story. https://www.nightimes.com/1996/05/28/Norwegian/hot tub s fatal suction claims teenager celebrating with friends after her prom. HTML. Similar thing happened to a little girl in my hometown on a class field trip back in the late 80s-early 90s, but in a smaller sized kiddie pool at our local public pool. She went underwater and her hair got caught in a drain at the bottom of the 2-3 feet deep pool. By the time someone noticed, she had drowned. How tragic. That was a chilling article to read. I can't imagine the scene.